Hi, Bob Moody here from Diligent Home Inspections along with my girl Sadie. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about gutter cleaning. Not a real interesting topic, but it is one that probably poses some of the biggest hazards that homeowners will face in doing home maintenance. According to the National Safety Council, there's probably about 6,500 people a year that die as a result of falls, or over 2 million end up being hospitalized as a result of injuries sustained in falls. And certainly one of the places that you can fall from would be a ladder. Most of the things I've looked at online about cleaning gutters, just to try and get background for you guys, all of them pretty much talk about working from the ladder. I will tell you from my experience of working on ladders in the fire service, we spend a couple of weeks out of every recruit school teaching firefighters how to perform an assortment of different tasks on ladders. And one of the things we'll tell you is that we always encourage you to have somebody there with you to stabilize the ladder while you're working from it. So that can pose a hazard all by itself, just physically being up there and trying to perform work. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about all that. Okay, here we go. So this is my setup, my house. I have a single-story home, so I'm able to work off of an A-frame type of ladder, which is an ideal setup. It's going to be stable just by its very nature. I've only got a 5/12 pitch roof, which means that there's only 5 inches of rise for every 12 inches of horizontal measurement. So it makes it a pretty easy roof to walk. Now, I'm not going to clean this thing from a ladder. I find that awkward. Then you have to you have to move the ladder all around the house. That means you have to find a whole bunch of different places to make your ladder stable. They also talk about taking a 5-gallon bucket up and putting all the debris in a bucket. For me, it's just as easy to push it off onto the ground and clean it up from the ground rather than trying to do something with a bucket. That's just one more level of complexity that I don't need to deal with. This particular ladder is a Werner. I'm not endorsing any particular brand. This one happens to be pretty stable. If you look at it, you can see that the base of it's spread wider than the tip is. Another thing about this setup that I like is that the tip of the ladder is above the roof line. Now I'm going to go up on the roof because I'm comfortable working on roofs and clean it from there. I'm not going to scoot around on my butt, which is one of the things they recommend if you're actually going to be on the roof, because I try to make a point of getting to the leaves while they're still dry. Once they get wet and they turn into some kind of a soup up there, well then it becomes a much more difficult task. Anytime you're going to work, if you're going to work from a ladder, you need to have a good stable base. You need to have make certain that you've checked overhead for any kind of power lines or overhead obstructions that you could hit. You want to make certain that the place where you're putting the ladder is straight across. In other words, if you're working from the end where there's a pitch to the roof, that means part of your ladder is going to be bearing on a solid surface and part of it is not. That's not a good setup. You need to be working from from the eaves where everything is pretty uniform. If you've got a 2-story house, this becomes increasingly hazardous. If you have someone on the ground and a rope, you can have them pass things up to you that way, and I suppose that's where a 5-gallon bucket could come in handy. So you could have a little piece of rope and drop a bucket down, and they could put in whatever tools you need, and you could hoist them up that way, and then have a hook or a platform of some sort that you can suspend it from your ladder, attach it to your ladder. From my view, I think that if you're going to be working on a ladder, somebody needs to know you're out there, and preferably that person needs to be there with you. You need to establish a good climbing angle. Too vertical, it's easy to have the ladder come away from the structure. If it's out at too sharp an angle, then it makes it hard to work off of. Puts a lot of undue strain on the center of the ladder as you climb it. As I said, in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going up on the roof, and I'm not encouraging you to do that. That's what works for me. I do have rubber-soled shoes on. I got a pair of athletic trainers that I wear around for housework, and I'm going to go up. I've already started my leaf blower ahead of time, so I know it's going to start up, and I've already put it up on the roof, and we'll just assume that I use safe technique in order to make that happen. When you're climbing a ladder, you need to have your hands free so that you can use both hands. And again, my ladder extends above the roof line, which is a good thing, so that I can get up and dismount on the roof without too much trouble. We'll take a look at the gutters over here. I've already done part of my roof, but you can see here I'll pan down a little bit. There are leaves sitting on the roof. Those need to be cleaned off as well, because they're going to end up in the gutter. And you can take a look here. You can see that these gutters are pretty full, okay? Pretty full of leaves. And in fact, if I didn't get this done and we get rain later in the week, then I'm just going to end up with water pouring off all around my foundation. So what are the problems associated with that? Well, number one, if the gutters aren't working, water's dropping right straight down next to your foundation. Now what you have is potential to create some wet moisture issues in your basement. If the gutters fill up with water and they're freezing temperatures, that can freeze. That puts a lot of weight on those gutters if they're not really designed to support for extended periods of time. You can end up with some structural damage or some damage to the gutters because of that. If that continues on and you end up with icicles and snow and who knows what else hanging off of them because they've never drained, they can end up actually, in some cases, pulling right off your house. Another thing that can be a problem is if you have poor insulation in your attic and the gutters are dammed up like that, they create a condition referred to as an ice dam, which you end up with water backing up underneath your shingles and getting into different parts of your house and can cause some structural problems. So you really need to keep this done. This is more than just an inconvenience if that water is just running off. So let's go ahead and get to work here. I'll give you a real quick look at what I'm doing. Okay, so there you have it. No muss, no fuss. Obviously I do this frequently enough that I don't end up with a lot of wet stuff stuck in my gutters, and I do this several times a year. Leaves are all blown out on the ground. Who cares? I got to clean up. I got to rake the yard up anyway. So with that, I think that'll pretty much conclude this little helpful tip. Hopefully you find it somewhat helpful. If you want additional tips, you can go to my website at www.diligentinspects.com. You can also look me up on Facebook. And you can always send me a note either by Facebook or on my website if you have any other questions about home maintenance. And if you ever need a home inspector, I hope that you'll consider Diligent Home Inspections. We take this work pretty seriously. Thanks for your time. Go Ravens.